You're also mixing up the what's the phrase? I'm trying to let me use a stupid word, vibe. From a more melodic style, um, textural style, and then typically when there's an instrumental interlude in these tunes, I'm hearing, you know, some dissonant harmonies, really cool. More angular ideas. That's where the kind of crazy rhythms come in, and it's even on the verge of metal. So I'm curious where you what was your favorite music growing up and now to come up with that kind of mix of styles?
Well, it's funny. I I'm really not that into metal, although there's certain metal bands I love, like Meshuggah. Although even them, I prefer to listen to the instrumental parts more than the vocals. Um, but really, that's only something I've started to appreciate more recently. When I was a teenager, my favorite band was REM. So I was just obsessed with like the chimey guitar sound and the sort of dreamy, mysterious atmosphere that they created.
Huh.
Um, so of course, now I look at them in a different way. I'm like, oh, they're not really that technical, but at the same time, you don't necessarily have to play with ridiculous technique to make a really effective song or
Absolutely
mood.
right. No, you're right. The
But I think if you can, that's even better.
Yeah, so maybe that's where I was going to say some of those the verses and stuff where there's a more melodic, and textural vibe going on. I was about to lie to myself saying I could hear REM in that. I really can't. But in the
Well,
metal,
I'm not Michael Stipe, that's for sure.
yeah, well, the vocals, that's the other thing. If I were to criticize one thing about the mix, and I normally don't do this except for like, I'm stuff I'm really excited about. So I guess take it as a compliment. That it is a little lost, and I would like to hear more of it. And I'm wondering if it's not the mix, your vocals being lost, and if it's just you seem to have a very a range squarely in the mid range, baritone. And I'm struck with very few prog bands with singers who don't follow the pattern of the John Anderson or Geddy Lee with very high register tenor wailing vocals. You know what I mean? So have you ever?
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, I can sing in falsetto, and I've tried to sing in higher range, but honestly, sometimes I just feel like it comes out strained,
Mhm.
and I don't want to sacrifice any sort of genuine emotional quality or, natural humanistic quality just to reach, some operatic high note.
No, I hear you.
So that's sort of, although of course I'd love to be able to sing like, John Anderson or one of those guys. Um, I sort of try to play to my strengths.
No,
Um,
that's a smart thing.
and I think as far as the mixing, um, yeah, I might have had the vocals a little bit louder, but it was also one of those things where we wanted to make sure nothing would detract from the impact of the bass and drums,
Hmm.
since those were so strong and they were really driving a lot of the excitement.
It's true. I mean,
So I don't know. It's possibly we might do a little bit of a remastering or something in the future.
no, I'm the same way. I mean, I hope you take it in the spirit it was offered, that little tidbit. But
Oh, absolutely.
I hear what you're saying. Again, I was hearing all sorts of really neat things in the bass and the drums. So I hear where you're going. That's so funny. That's like the inverse of typical, cookie cutter mixing advice you get from pros. Start with the vocal. Vocal is always the most important, but not always.
Yeah, well, gosh, I've read so much on different people's opinions about production techniques, and honestly, for every person who says you have to do it one way, you can find someone else who says no, that's the wrong way to do it.
Right.
Um, so I mean, I'm not making a pop record. I'm not Frank Sinatra. I think, when people come to a live show, probably what they'll be most impressed by is the instrumentation, and hopefully the vocals are a pleasant addition to that,
Yeah, definitely.
but not necessarily the focal point. I would love to be able to get a backup singer though, because I love vocal harmonies.
Right, right. Well, I
Perhaps at
didn't.
some point we'll be able to arrange that.
I didn't. Maybe I didn't listen close enough. I didn't hear a ton of vocal harmonies in the recorded product. Am I wrong?
They're mixed pretty low. And again, this is where we didn't want the vocals or harmonies to overshadow anything. But in some of my older work, they've been a lot more prominent.
Right. But
I used to kind of get over the top with, the fun of overdubbing your own voice.
Yeah, it does get a little weird. But to your point, I hear you when I think having the vocal double or backup live is always just an impressive kind of performance. I've just found that live vocals, harmony really done really well, or even things like live horns just really make a show rock.
Yeah.
So you're out promoting this album. Are you have any events coming up you want to plug, or your websites,
Oh yeah.
etc.? Go ahead.
If you go to our website at mercurytree.net, we've got our shows listed coming up. We're playing several shows over the coming months in Portland. There's a EP release show September 18th at Oak Grove Tavern, and then some other stuff listed after that. And also on there's a link to Bandcamp where you can stream all of our music.
Cool. Well, this has been great talking to you, Ben. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you, Ben. It was great talking to you and very interesting.
Thanks again for listening to this podcast from bandslikerush.com. Again, please do check out the band's website, which is mercurytree.net. We're going to close out the podcast this week with one last full-length track from the band's latest EP. This is called Preconceived Notions. Take care.